You're tired, not in the way that sleep fixes, not in the way a vacation resets. You've been tired for a long time now, in a way that doesn't quite have a name, that doesn't show up on any blood test, that other people don't seem to be carrying in the same way. You've tried the supplements. You've tried the morning routines. You've tried logging off. None of it has done what it's supposed to do. And somewhere underneath the tiredness, there's a quiet, permanent voice telling you this must be your fault. That voice has been wrong this entire time. If you've spent the last several years wondering why ordinary life feels significantly harder than it seems like it should be, the answer is almost certainly not personal. The exhaustion you're carrying isn't evidence that you're weak, lazy, or somehow incapable of handling what other adults handle. It's evidence that you're a normal human nervous system being asked to operate in an environment that nobody's nervous system was built for, and the visible cost of that mismatch happens to be the tiredness you've been blaming yourself for. Here's the thing nobody talks about. The human nervous system spent something like 200,000 years evolving for a specific kind of life. Small social groups, physical work, followed by physical rest, sunlight and darkness as the only signals about when to be alert and when to recover, information arriving at the speed someone could walk it over, conflicts that resolved or didn't but mostly stayed local. That's the environment your body is still optimized for, regardless of what year your driver's license says. The environment you actually live in is something different. Hundreds of decisions before breakfast, sustained attention demanded across screens for 10 hours a day, constant exposure to the suffering of strangers half a world away, background notifications that ping the same threat detection system your ancestors used for predators, calendars stacked with obligations that don't include physical recovery anywhere. The tiredness isn't evidence that something is wrong with you. It's evidence that the environment is asking your nervous system to do something it wasn't designed to do, every day, with no relief, for years. In 2020, journalist Anne Helen Peterson published Can't Even, originally about millennial burnout, but increasingly recognized as descriptive of the broader cohort of working adults navigating modern attention economy conditions. Peterson documented what researchers were already finding: rates of chronic exhaustion, sleep disruption, and what she called errand paralysis had risen significantly across multiple age cohorts in ways the prior cultural framing of laziness or poor time management couldn't explain. Journalist Johan Hari, in his 2022 book Stolen Focus, traced the underlying mechanism through 12 different research domains: attention fragmentation, sleep disruption, processed food and inflammation, sustained low-grade cortisol elevation, and the documented reduction in time spent in genuinely restful states across the past several decades. The combined picture is consistent. Modern environments produce a specific kind of exhaustion that doesn't resolve through individual lifestyle changes because the underlying conditions don't pause. You're not failing at recovery. The recovery is being outcompeted by the demands. Picture this. It's Wednesday evening. You finished work 2 hours ago, but you've been checking your phone every 15 minutes since then because you can't quite shake the feeling that something needs your attention. You made dinner while listening to a podcast because eating without input feels unbearable now. You sat down to watch something, but you're also scrolling, and you've already forgotten what you watched yesterday. You go to bed at 11. You scroll for another 40 minutes. You sleep for 6.5 hours, interrupted twice. You wake up tired. That entire day, your nervous system never had a single stretch of more than 10 minutes where it wasn't processing some kind of incoming input. Your ancestors spent hours every day in genuinely empty mental space, walking, working with their hands, sitting around a fire. You haven't had that kind of empty in years. The tiredness isn't from doing too much. It's from never being allowed to do nothing. But here's where it gets interesting. The first reframe is the most important. The exhaustion is not happening because you're weak. It's happening because the environment is, by every measurable standard, more demanding than any environment humans have lived in before. The mismatch is real. The cost is real, and it doesn't go away just because you've gotten used to it. But there's more going on than just demand. Modern life has quietly removed almost every recovery mechanism the human nervous system used to rely on. Long stretches of physical movement, time outside under natural light, genuinely uninterrupted sleep, boredom, silence, small daily social interactions with familiar people. Each of these used to be a built-in component of an ordinary day. Now each of them requires deliberate effort to recreate, and most of us never quite get there. The exhaustion isn't only about input, it's also about the systematic loss of recovery infrastructure nobody mentions because it disappeared so gradually. And here's the kicker. The cultural framing of modern exhaustion has been almost entirely individualized. The advice you've been given assumes the problem is your habits, your boundaries, your morning routine, your screen time. Those interventions are not nothing, but they are downstream of a structural condition no amount of personal optimization will fully fix. You can do everything right and still be tired, because the environment you're operating in is producing the tiredness faster than your individual interventions can resolve it. That isn't a personal failure. That's the actual situation. Now let's be honest. Knowing the structural reasons for the exhaustion doesn't make it go away. There's no reframe in this video that's going to redesign the environment for you. The reframe matters because it lets you stop adding self-blame on top of the tiredness, which is a small but real reduction in the load. It doesn't by itself fix the load. If your exhaustion has crossed into something that feels heavier than ordinary tiredness, if you can't get out of bed, if nothing feels worth doing, if recovery isn't restoring you at all, that's worth taking to a doctor or therapist, not just adjusting your routine around. Naming this honestly isn't dismissing the reframe. It's making sure the reframe doesn't talk you out of help you might actually need. But for the people whose tiredness is the predictable cost of operating inside a demanding environment, here's what's actually happening. You're not weak. You're not failing. You're not bad at adulthood. You're a normal human nervous system carrying a load no nervous system was built to carry, in an environment that gives almost no support for the kind of recovery your body actually needs. The fact that you're tired is information. It's information about the environment, not about your worth. The work isn't to optimize your way out of the tiredness. The work is to recognize that what you're feeling is a reasonable response to unreasonable conditions, and to give yourself credit for continuing to function inside them. The ordinary functioning you've been doing, on the load you've been carrying, in the environment you're operating in, is itself the achievement. It isn't the baseline you were supposed to exceed. It's the thing. There's something quietly historic about being tired right now. Almost everyone you know is tired. Almost everyone you don't know is tired. The exhaustion isn't an individual failing distributed across millions of people at once. It's a shared response to a shared condition that the culture has not yet figured out how to name accurately, let alone fix. If you've spent any part of the last few years quietly assuming your tiredness is the proof of your inadequacy, this might be the moment to consider you've been reading the evidence wrong. The tiredness is data about the environment. It isn't a verdict on you. You are not the broken version of someone who would have been less tired. You are the version of you that is awake inside this particular moment in history, and the awakeness is hard and the hardness is real. You're not lazy. You're not weak. You're not failing at being a person. You're a normal human nervous system operating inside an environment nobody's nervous system was built for, and the exhaustion you've been carrying is the predictable cost of that mismatch, not a verdict on your worth. If this resonated, please subscribe to Silent Awareness. It helps the channel grow and lets you know when the next deep dive on the quietly different ways your mind works is ready. There's more about you that nobody's named yet. Hit subscribe and the bell so you don't miss what comes next.